going through all of the trials and tribulations of trying to fix this thing, or to make it the way I want it to be. I've already sort of halfway through figured out some things that I don't like or that I'd like to change. This is sort of a work in process, so I'm figuring it out as I go along. So a couple things that I'm gonna change are I'm gonna put this back in eventually and bore out the hole in the center, basically out to where that first ring is, and then actually press in. So on the other side of this, I'm going to, instead of chopping it off here, I'm going to chop it off up here. Actually, I'm going to do something else with it, but I'm going to turn a shoulder on here to press into there, and put a Morse taper hole in there, probably a 0. It'll probably be a very small Morse taper, just as an extra feature to the Rotary. And I'm also going to make a steel ring to go into here. Instead of having cast iron on steel, I'm going to have steel on steel. I don't really like the fit. It's not as good as I thought it was when I made it on this piece here. So I'm going to make that fit a little nicer, and I'm going to make it steel on steel, and I'm going to make the ring out of the rest of this piece. So my next task is to basically chuck this back up in the forejaw and make a ring, finish this piece, and I'm going to turn this smaller for whatever I make the ring. So a lot of rethinking going on, and actually, you know, there's been some other other ideas too that I've had with as far as locking the table in place. For example, this was where the lock was. This nut was in here, and that would just basically push against the rim, this area here, and lock the table. Well, that's not really sufficient, because all that really does is it just pushes the table, and then that forces the table to go crooked, which isn't really ideal for a precision dividing head. So I have some ideas on how to make that better. I'm going to just turn this into an oil port like I did over here, except it's going to push oil inward into where the sleeve mates with the actual underside of the table. I'm going to have an oil port that goes through there. And I'm thinking that what I'm going to do is, instead of actually locking the table, I'm going to lock the shaft. I'm going to push a brass pin against the shaft over in this area. close to the final size here. Really don't want to mess it up, so I have about 14 thousandths left. So I'm gonna try to split it up in an even amount to finish it off, and then I'm gonna polish in the final size to get it to fit nice on the ring. I got everything pressed in. I put the sleeve inside here, so now you can kind of see how that goes. And then in the table I pressed the steel piece into there, and it actually fits really nice. I mean, it has a much better than expected. There's very little side to side play, whereas before it could basically like rock back and forth probably 4 or 5 thousandths. So I'm very happy with how this turned out so far. So the next step is going to be modifying this housing, which is where the worm goes, and we'll go from there.